Audio check. Now my Twitch is muted. Audio check. Audio check. Okay, there we go. All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Phil Gallagher of ThrabenU University. I'm a huge Death and Taxes enthusiast, and tonight we're going to be streaming with Red, White, Death and Taxes featuring Daredevil. I usually start my stream at 7 o'clock, but I wanted to start a few minutes early because I have a few things that I kind of want to puzzle over here, and anyone who wants to chime in can. So for anyone who's not familiar with Daredevil, it's sweet, it's super interesting. When it enters the battlefield, you can exile target instant or sorcery card from an opponent's graveyard. I can cast that card this turn, and I can spend mana as though it were mana of any type to cast that spell. And if it would be put into a graveyard this turn instead, exile it. I have now done 4 different leagues with Daredevil, and all of them have ended at 3/2s. That's fine. I have no issues with that. You know, I'm hoping for a little bit above 60%, but you know, in my small sample size of 20 games, like I played against Elves twice, and like I played against Burn, so I've hit a few, you know, unfavorable matchups. So I'm certainly not giving up on the card. It's about where it needs to be. Solway, welcome. So for anyone not familiar with Latin, which I assume is most of you, Solway is how you say hello to one person in Latin, and Salvete is how you say hello to multiple people. Random intellectual tidbit of the day. So this is what I thought about running as of the end of last league. So in order to fit Daredevil into the deck, I removed the Vrynwing mares that I was playing previously. In order to compensate for that in the sideboard, I added a couple of Sanctum Prelates, and then we kind of had this one loose slot that we weren't sure what to do with. This slot has fluctuated between being Orzhov Pontiff, Surgical Extraction, Sword of War and Peace, and there were a bunch of other ideas thrown out, ranging from Council's Judgment, to another Crusader, to a Blessed Alliance. Like, there are a lot of different ideas that have been thrown out in this slot. And I want to spend a few minutes revisiting the sideboard, because I think Daredevil changes how you want to sideboard in some matchups. So, last league I played against Grixis Delver, and I got to, I guess it was like 4-color Delver. I got to Fatal Push a Goyf, Abrupt Decay, I want to say it was like a Leovold, and that was pretty neat. So, normally against a Delver deck, you know, let's pretend it's Grixis Delver just for the sake of this conversation. Normally against like a Grixis Delver deck, I'll do something like this. I'll board out my Recruiters because they're slow, the Revokers because they only hit Deathrite Shaman, P and K because it's very mana intensive, and then I usually board out Jailer as well because it's awkward against True Name and Young Pyromancer. And when I do that, this is 6 cards, I board in these 6 cards. Path, 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 Rip, Rip, Mirror Crusader. And that's easy, in, out, done, and over. But if I want Daredevil to consistently be removal in the matchup, like if I want to be flashing back Lightning Bolts and Fatal Pushes, then I probably shouldn't board in Rest in Peace, or at least I should consider not boarding in Rest in Peace. So sort of the internal debate I'm having with myself right now is, am I okay with not boarding in Rest in Peace in the Grixis Delver matchup? So they are not a deck that is graveyard reliant, they are a deck that gets value out of graveyards. So they have Deathrite Shaman as both a win condition and a mana accelerator that deals with the graveyard. They have the flashback side of Cabal Therapy, and then they have delve threats like Gurmag Angler. So Rest in Peace will probably be worth a card in that matchup when it happens. Now, is Rest in Peace on average in that matchup going to be better than a Dire Fleet Daredevil? And that's something that I'm asking myself now. So, if I don't board in Rest in Peace in this matchup, what do? Then I have 4 cards that I want to bring in. Awkward as it is, I could leave the Jailer in, but then I would still need 1 more card for this matchup, or I'd have to play some card that's a little bit suboptimal, like keep 1 Recruiter in the deck, or play 1 Prelate, even though like I'm not a huge fan of Prelate in this matchup, because in the post-board games you have 7 1-drop removal spells. So I'm not sure that I've come to the answer on that. And this sort of War and Peace is sort of a wild card slot. So if I want to try not boarding in Rip versus Delver, I can just make this card something else that would be good against Delver with applications elsewhere. So like, just to talk about another matchup in sideboarding sort of with this exact configuration, you know, let's talk about Checkpile, the other, you know, big enemy in the room, so to speak. Against Checkpile, I usually go and I board out 4 Swords to Plowshares. They're relatively dead. I tend to board out Revoker because it's unreliable in the matchup. Like, shutting off their Jace or their Lily is amazing, but like they have so much removal that it doesn't tend to stick around. And I tend to board out Palace Jailer because it's risky. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7 cards. So in that matchup, I'd want to do something like bring in all of my value-oriented cards. So Rip shuts off their Snapcasters and their Death Brights. A weird Delve threat if they have it, but like just shutting off Snapcaster and Death Right is fine, and any other value I get out of that is amazing. So that's 5 right there. And so like with the current configuration, I'd probably board in like Prelate in War and Peace, or like Prelate or something like that. So like maybe I'm supposed to not play War and Peace and just play something like a Mirren Crusader or something like that that can just kind of generically come in matchups like the Delver matchup. Alternatively, I can cut like Prelate for like double Cataclysm and then have 3, 6, and then like not play the Prelates and just play like 2 Cataclysms in that matchup instead, because Prelate is kind of so-so in the Checkpile matchup since they have so many different varied converted mana costs. But that doesn't necessarily solve the problem of what I want to do for that last slot in the Delver matchup. Prelate also makes Daredevil awkward. You're less likely to cast their spells. Yeah, I agree with that. Like, I think I probably need the Prelates or something equivalent to Prelate in my sideboard, since I don't have the Vryn Wingmares anymore to give me additional matchup percentage points versus the combo decks. So, like, I don't hate those. Like, I at least want 1, but I can do something like cut War and Peace, cut Prelate, and run, like, Cataclysm in those slots. It doesn't fix the problem of me being one card too short for Delver, but I would like this better against like Checkpile and Miracles. I'm still kind of cold on Palace Jailer. I've just started tooling around with the red-white build, and I'm running a Wingmare instead. Yeah, I really like Wingmare in the red-white build, but I don't think you want to run Wingmare alongside Dire Fleet Daredevil. Like, that's really, really awkward. It's awkward enough with Thalia, but if you get like Thalia and Wingmare, like your Daredevil at that point is probably just a 2-1 with First Strike, which is not the end of the world. So again, that's kind of the problem I'm thinking over to myself is, you know, what do I want to do with these last couple of sideboard slots? So again, I think the options are run 1 more card for Delver, try out these Cataclysms, try like Prelate plus 1 card that's good versus Delver, or like play some generic card that like hits Delver and other matchups. And, you know, a big part of this conversation is, you know, what do I want to do against Delver if I'm not playing Rest in Peace? Or do I want to just like accept the awkwardness of playing both Rest in Peace and Daredevil in the matchup, but I don't know if I want to do that because that's felt like super, super awkward every time so far. Getting another flyer in here somewhere is something that I'd like. Yeah, so like, is Wingmare a good enough card to sideboard? I don't know if Wingmare is a good enough card to sideboard. And I don't think I want to just like board a mediocre card. I want my sideboard cards to be actively good. Is Direfleet Daredevil any good? Yeah. So just some highlights so far. On average, it just brainstorms or ponder. On a decent Daredevil, you'll do something like Fatal Push or Lightning Bolt or Abrupt Decay. And on a great Daredevil, someone on the source posted this one. They gambled with their opponent's gamble, got Magus of the Moon, and like Magus of the Moon lands out. Or similarly, I've gotten to do things like, you know, my opponent has a Jace on board, I'll Lightning Bolt you, I'll kill you. You want a Resto Angel? Resto Angel was so good versus Delver. That's not the craziest idea in the world. Like, I really do like Restoration Angel. Like, that is a good value card. It is a good generic card to board in. Like, it has 4 toughness. It's great versus Delver. Like, it seems like it has decent synergy with Direfleet Daredevil if, like, you have 5 mana, or, like, if you put the Vial on 4 and then resto that in. Like, I don't actually think that's unreasonable. Like, even in the check pile matchup, like, if I have a Restoration Angel, you know, Restoration Angel Recruiter, Restoration Angel P and K, like, that does sound fine. Huh. Is that actually good, chat? Is Restoration Angel actually good? Like, I've played the card before. I've enjoyed it before. I have a 24th land. I have more things that give value off of Enter the Battlefield Blink than normal. Is that reasonable? What about Council's Judgment? Council's Judgment is a fine card. I feel like the red-white version has needed it less than the mono-white version. I couldn't exactly give you a reason why that is, but to just try to explain, the red-white deck attacks from some different angles, so a lot of times in the red-white deck, like, you'll see Leon and Relic Order as a way to go after equipment, and the red-white deck is also trying to be a little... Its mana is worse on white-white consistently than other versions of the deck. So, like, if you look at the way that I'm deck building, there are almost no white-white symbols in this deck. Like, there are 4 white-white cards in the sideboard and 4 in the main deck, versus, like, one of my mono-white builds, where there's just, like, infinite white-white spells. Alright, against the decks you were talking about, I think we're busy with our mana in other ways. That might be fair. Let's talk this through for the sake of the conversation, though. So, like, let's say we run a Restoration Angel. So let's say this Cataclysm I put off screen as a Restoration Angel. So if I run a Restoration Angel, I wouldn't want to run this Cataclysm. So what would this be? Would this just be another card for combo then, and we like drop this Cataclysm for like the prelate that we had before? We lose the ability to like sweep Planeswalkers off the board against like check pile and miracles, but we gain random value. Do we need to go in the random value direction if like Direfleet Daredevil is already pushing us in the random value direction? That's an interesting question. Resto and Sword instead of Cataclysm? I don't know that I want to do both Resto and Sword, because like they're going to be good in a lot of the same sort of mid-rangey type matchups. So let me think here. So we put the prelate there, and then against like a Delver deck, I think we wanted 5 cards to bring in. So we'd bring in Path, 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 Crusader, Resto as the last card. And we would have boarded out P&K, Revokers, Recruiters. So of our own stuff to flicker for value, we'd have Stoneforge, Daredevil, Wisp, Jailer. Okay, so let's think about check pile now. So if I were to go against check pile, I'd have P&K, Rip Rip, Recruiter, Resto, Crusader, 3/6. And against check pile, I would board out Revokers, I'd board out Swords to Plowshares, and out Jailer, so it'd be 7. So I'd board in like 1 random prelate, or keep 1 Revoker. Seems reasonable. The rest of them might be ambitious, but I'm not above trying it for a league. Alright, let's spend 30 cents or whatever it's going to be on a Restoration Angel. Yeah, when in the right situations, Sanctum Prelate on 3 is really, really good against pile. But like then there are other times where it's just like bolt it, decay it, push it, and it didn't do anything. Alright, so there's like a billion versions of this. Alright, that one's like way more expensive. What about this one? Alright. Alright, so I'm just gonna make sure I like this real quick. And just make sure I'm not like introducing any major flaws into my deck with what I'm doing. So for anyone who wasn't here for the very start of this conversation, I wanted to start like looking at what would happen to my deck if I didn't board in Rest in Peace versus like Grixis Delver decks in order to try to keep my Direfleet Daredevils alive as like cards that can be extra removal. And that's what's leading me to try a couple of different cards here. How does the lands matchup generally go? P-Fire seems really good against you. Yeah, lands is definitely an unfavorable matchup for the mono-white build. With the red-white build, when you have Magus to randomly hose games, and now Direfleet Daredevil as well to snipe Loams, you have a lot more play. I'm only running 2 Rest in Peace instead of 3, and I don't have anything like Surgicals, so my game isn't necessarily the best, but like Moonman can just get them. Like, sometimes you just play Moonman and they die, and it's really just that easy. Okay. Anyone have any last-minute changes or suggestions before I just ram this into a league? I again, not 100% sure on this Restoration Angel, but like it has a lot going for it. You know, you need Revolt with push. It lives through Lightning Bolt. It lives through Decay. It's only 1 white mana. It's an additional flyer in our deck, which is already Flyer Light. Oh yeah, and just still on the lands idea, Prelate on 2 is really stupid against lands. Like, yes, sometimes they'll have a Barbarian Ring as an out to it, or like a Molten Vortex or something, but otherwise they just like flop around and die, unless they can produce a Merit Lodge naturally. I really like Prelate, but I found that Wasteland being randomly great against you can be a problem. Yeah, it's not just Wasteland either. Like, this deck has 3 basic planes, so its Ghost Quarter is good against you too. Like, if your opponent has the read that, like, you only have 3 basics in your deck, it's super, super bad. Alright, I think I like this well enough. Just gonna drag this Restoration Angel here at the bottom so we keep looking at it and remember it in all of its beauty. And let's go ahead and ram this into a league. So my regularly scheduled stream times are Mondays and Wednesdays at approximately 7 o'clock. And I want to just go ahead and add one thing to that announcement on sort of the general stream front. I have put some goals for number of followers below the chat. I'd like to expand this stream, and I have a decent number of followers already. Like, I think I'm, you know, well into the 300s already for number of followers I have. But I'm going to set a couple of goals for myself, and every time I hit one of those goals, I will run a bonus league in addition to my normal content. So when I hit 350, I'm going to stream a league with just regular mono white taxes for you all. When I hit 400, I'm going to stream a league with a 4 Wingmare build to just kind of try that out and tax people to the max. When I hit 450, I'm going to play a match with or a league with the Judge's Familiar build. And when I hit the big 500, which I think is reasonable, I'm going to stream a league, or honestly probably a couple, with Tin Fins. One of my roommates has Tin Fins on Magic Online, and he said I can borrow it sometime. So I think when I am gonna celebrate by hitting 500, I'm gonna stream something fun. Well, thanks for stopping in for a few and helping me talk about this. I hope you enjoy the video later and get to see what Restoration Angel does. Hey Phil, I just stumbled on your website and stream. I just played my first IRL Legacy event, and now I'm looking to go into D&T now, and I've been focusing on your site and now stream. Well, welcome. I hope you're going to learn some interesting things here tonight. It's going to be interesting. The chat talked me into playing a Restoration Angel in the sideboard, which is going to be fun. I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully we cast that and like blink our pirate friend and do super silly things with it. But otherwise, the rest of our deck list is reasonable. Man, we've got to turn down those moto sounds. Ah, we are playing against the Malamujo. Let me get my spreadsheet all pulled up here. So Malamujo plays a handful of things. He plays D&T sometimes. He plays Delver sometimes. So I'm just going to keep a reasonable hand. In the dark, I don't necessarily know which deck he's going to be on. Playing Legacy Burn and had the pirate cast against me, stealing a Chain Lightning. Ah! Yeah, the additional removal is pretty sweet. I like 2x Batter, 3x Stoneforge, 2 Battered Skulls? I don't know if I agree with that. I don't even necessarily want 1 Batter Skull in my deck on some matches. Uh-oh. Opponent's just getting there. Alright, at this point I can F6. Alright, so we're playing against Ant. We're on the play. I'll go ahead and preemptively type loss, because it looks like we're dead. Alright, so my opponent Passion Flame, Storm count is 5. Dark Writ, Cabal Writ. Infernal Tutor for a Ritual. And Tendrils is exact kill. Or sure, just LED. Alright, I respect my opponent's line here of racking up the storm count artificially since I'm not conceding. Respect it. And I will concede in response to the Cabal Therapy, just to not reveal my hand. I should say I just got here, used to be more normal D&T. I'll watch more before next advice, before next event, you mean? I've been on Sword of War and Peace in the main for a little while. Now with Batterskull on the board, I've been happy with it. In the builds that are heavy on Crusaders, I think that's reasonable. So essentially, we board in our cards that hate on the unfair side of this matchup, and we board out our super fair stuff. So, not that. So we go ahead and board out all of our Swords to Plowshares. Our Jitte isn't particularly good. Palace Jailer and P&K are a little bit too slow. And then we have to get rid of one more card. A lot of times I'll just trim one random Deuter at this point. So you can trim a Flicker Wisp because it's slow and it's an X1 and you're not traditionally going to get a ton of value off of blinking things. You can trim a Stoneforge. I kind of like having all of the Stoneforges because, like, every once in a while they just empty, and if you have the Stoneforge, you get the Batterskull and you kind of save yourself. And the Stoneforges can also protect from Chain of Vapor if you get like a Sword of Fire and Ice going. So I'll probably do this. Yeah, and if you look at what this does to our deck, we're now at like 17 2-drops. The Stoneforges aren't necessarily hate cards, but like the rest are just super impactful cards on 2 for this matchup. That's a weird one. I really need an impactful 2-mana play in order to keep a hand with this deck. And like if my opponent just fetches a basic, it brick walls this hand. So I'm going to go ahead and mulligan this one. Sand is not good either. So the Relic Warder could snipe a piece of artifact mana that he plays out to try to play around Thalia. In order to play that, I'll have to put a Cavern on Cleric, which can only cast Mom and this cat. And if I do that, then I can't actually cast this Direfleet Daredevil. This sword is pretty dead. This is not good. Like, I probably just want to mulligan for a Thalia or a Canonist or a Revoker or a Rest in Peace, plus some lands. This one has 2 lands. and no castable cards, but I don't really want to go to 4. I think I'm going to keep this and try to scry for a 2-drop. Alright, not the draw we wanted. No, I don't think Probe is my friend. I don't think Probe is my friend at all. Like, I'm kind of hoping my opponent has a little bit of a clunky hand. Because if they just have the ability to go off on turn 2, I'm probably stone dead. If they have the ability to go off on turn 3, I'm probably just still dead. Like, I have a ton of live draws. Like, I have a ton of great 2-drops to draw. Alright. Hate Bear Please deck. We did it. So the good news here is that now if I draw another land, I can recruit her for like a Canonist. Why do you have Caracas in your deck? What? I have questions, chat. I need to snip that. That Caracas seems like super loose. Like, it's obviously beating us here, but like, if this was like a Canonist instead, like, that's dead. Yeah, it did just happen. The opponent thinks he's a genius now. The opponent is a very good player. Like, Malamujo is generally one of the trophy leaders. Alright, so that goes in the long game. 2 opponent has Caracas for Thalia. And goes off. Alright. That's literally never happened to me before. I don't think that's good deck building. I think that's too narrow. And I think against all the Grizzlebrand decks, you just try to race them. Like, if you play against Show and Tell or something, like, you therapy them once or duress them once and you try to go off. Like, I think that's how that's supposed to work. Like, you have Probe to make that amazing. And if you don't need to take their stuff, like, you just take a piece of counter magic and go off through it. Ah. Alright. glad that one didn't happen in a paper tournament. I might have been upset about that. Alright, we are playing against Time is a Goon. Our hand looks reasonable. I'll see if I have any data on them. I do not have any data on them. I'm going to keep this, kind of hoping that my opponent is on like one of those Deathrite style decks. Because my opponent is on any sort of fair deck, like removal spell into Magus, or like maybe throwing a waste in the middle of that is probably pretty good. Don't just... Alright, yeah. Great. So, like, there are times when I'm surprised. And then there are times where someone plays a goddamn Caracas while they're playing Ant. And I don't know what to say, chat. I don't know what to say. Like... Ah! Neat. Am I just playing against, like, Jund? I guess he'd spent Thaliad / Teagued one too many times for his liking. Sure. It's kind of unfortunate that my opponent, like, has basic here. But this Magus still might be pretty good against them. Alright. Is my opponent just playing, like, random junk value? Alright. Opponent has infinite Deathrite Shamans. And we have infinite lands. You think Nick fit with Grimflare? No, I don't think so. I think my opponent is just on, like, a junk mid-range deck. That is my current theory. Like, I think there's gonna be, like, Bobs and Stone Forges and, yeah, things like Lingering Souls. So, my opponent had a hand that lined up very, very well against ours, with, like, opening on double basic and 3 Deathrite Shamans. This would be a very good draw against just about anything that I could be doing. Oh geez, that was just cast a second Lingering Souls, not flashback the first. I'm super dead. Just curious, when did you start your D&T website, and what motivated you to do it? I check forums and such really, really frequently, and I found myself answering the same questions just again and again and again and again. And so I wanted to create a resource so that I could stop doing that, and, like, I'm a teacher as well, so I wanted to teach people about Magic and teach people about D&T, because there's a lot here that isn't super obvious. I'm not going to trade this Flickerus for a token because I'd like to draw a Stoneforge or a piece of equipment and get this thing suited up. So I guess the website is over a year old now. Alright, the Swords to Plowshares is a touch late since my opponent has infinite frickin' spirits. I can attack in with the Magus and like try to get them to double block with spirits, and then Swords to Plowshares 1. What if my opponent does more than double block it? That's bad for me because I turn on the Deathrite Shaman draining. But like my opponent has 2 more spirits incoming, so like I guess I have to try to get some value, even though it's unlikely that I'm gonna get anything. Yeah, sans a really hot top deck in like the next turn, I'm in trouble. So I'm gonna try to get my opponent to double block this Magus. I think they'll just take the damage, and I'll probably take 2 more from Deathrites just by them attacking in. But like I've got to try something to get some value. Yep, okay. Alright, so the opponent is playing around me, having a Deuter. Guess that's nice. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and remove a Deathrite Shaman. Because I want my opponent to make a mistake and tap that swamp to drain me, and then they won't get to flashback this Lingering Souls. My opponent did not make a mistake. So if I take this 5, I go to 11. If they don't cast the Lingering Souls, I go to 9, and then they have 5, 6, 7 in play, so I probably don't die. Is this the turn where I need to block with a Flicker Wisp? The answer might be maybe. Like, if I get a piece of equipment, I can put it on the Magus. Like, it feels super bad, but I've traded the Flicker Wisp for, like, half a Lingering Souls. I'll take the block. Like, unless I draw another Flicker Wisp and I start doing, like, the whole Flicker Wisp things, that's the best I've got. Like, I think I'm just stone cold dead to my opponent's opener. See if I can get my opponent to tap their Deathrite Shaman now. I could not. All right. So I'm playing this. This is not the best position to be playing this card in, because I'm, like, certainly giving my opponent the Monarch title right back. But this will let me remove a Spirit token. Arguably, instead, I could remove the Deathrite so that my opponent can't drain me. but I think I want the permanent value of getting rid of a spirit. And now we hope to draw a 3-drop. Exactly right now. Flicker Wisp would be amazing. Okay. Okay. So that Flicker Wisp is really good. I won't use it yet. So I can use this to take the crown back. I can flicker out a spirit, trade with a spirit, or I can flicker... Alright, well, it's happening now. So if I flicker a spirit, it'll put them down to 4 spirits. And then I can block one that puts them down to 3 spirits. If I don't flicker a spirit this turn, I'm going to take 4 damage from attacks. And 4 puts me down to 8. This death rate is a problem. I kind of just want another card, honestly, because I have so many cards that can just like swing things back in my favor. But like maybe I'm supposed to just keep going after these spirits and like just hope that my opponent has nothing. But I'll take 1 more damage this way, but I'm gonna go ahead and blink the Jailer. That way I get 1 more card out of it. And I will accept the trade for a spirit. My life total is in jeopardy. Infinite triggers. Go ahead and leave that at 3. More Flicker Wisp. Come on, more Flicker Wisp. Alright. Mom, not the best. Our draw next turn has to be spicy. Alright, so we go to 5. This Deathrite drains us. We go to 3. And then we are dead to the spirits that are on board. Drawing a piece of equipment would be pretty saucy. Jitte, very specifically, would be the best. Again, I'm going to leave this at 3 in case we get a recruiter. It is a Thalia. So we are dead to just attack in with spirits and drain. We're gonna go ahead and, like, keep playing as if we're not dead, but we're dead. We are the Monarch now, so we've got that going for us. So I'll play this Thalia, and I'm not going to play the Mom. The second Mom doesn't matter. I need to spike some card with this draw. Another Thalia will not do it. Evening Star Streak, thanks for stopping by. We're getting beat to death by Lingering Souls tokens right now. Our out is our opponent being bad and clicking through their attack step. Yes, I am running PN, Karen. So if my opponent didn't lead on basic and have triple Deathrite Shaman, I think I had a reasonable chance at grinding out this game. But like the double acceleration they got off of that turn where they had both Deathrites was rough. Alright, so we lost that game versus time is a goon. So game one, he led on double basic and had 3 Deathrite Shaman for my Magus hand. Alright. Let's figure out what we're doing in our life here against what looks to be just some generic junk value deck. Path is a maybe, PNK is a maybe, Recruiter Crusaders are maybe, Rest of Beast is 100%, and this Resto Angel is probably coming in. Yeah, I got the Jailer play right. So, I don't know the exact composition of my opponent's deck. Like, they mostly just showed me Deathrites and Lingering Souls. Like, I know they're going to have some discard. They showed me a Thoughtseize, Hymns, Reasonable. They have Grim Flare. So I have to figure out how I want to approach this matchup. It's going to be awkward because Swords is going to be really good against a couple of their plays, but really bad against, like, their Lingering Souls specifically. So I think the Jailer's probably coming out. That's pretty bad in the face of Lingering Souls. Like, we tried to fight through it there, but it didn't necessarily work. The Revoker probably comes out. Like, maybe this is a matchup where I board out my Daredevils. I don't know that I want to Path, necessarily. Like, I don't want to overload with single target removal because it's going to be really good against, like, random things like, you know, Goyf, Grim Flare, Deathrite Shaman, but bad against Souls. So, like, I kind of want to approach this from, like, a value-oriented matchup where, like, I just try to go bigger than them and invalidate some of their early stuff they've got going on. I could steal a Lingering Souls. I mean, it sounds nice when you put it that way. Maybe going up to 3 recruiters is too many. We've got 15 seconds here. Let's submit this and then reevaluate after the next match. His hand's not great, but it has some vials and some mums, and Like, this Wasteland probably isn't going to do a ton, but, like, this is good enough to keep. It's going to need some help off the top, but since we went for a bunch of value-oriented cards, and we have a bunch of 4-drops in the deck, these vials might do a lot of work. That's annoying. I'm gonna play the second vial on the off chance that I end up flicker wisping the needle to open up vials for a turn later down the line. But this is super, super rough here. To just dagger myself. If my opponent thought seizes this rip, I'm super salty. There we go. There we go. Just rub that salt right in the wound for me. So the only way this could be worse is then if my opponent has 1 white mana removal spell for this mom. Like so. Alright. Alright. Chat, why? Why? So whoever said at the beginning of this that they, like, wanted to play 2 Batterskulls in their deck, like, this is why you, like, barely want 1. Like, just drawing it when you don't have a Stoneforge or when your land light is just super terrible. Called shots on called shots, yeah. So, like, what's the worst thing they can play here to tilt me more? They can't Lily of the Veil. They can't Lily of the Last Hope. Alright, Abrupt Decay on Mom. Sure. Maybe start predicting their misplays. Good call. Good call. Gotta predict something. So, like, we're certainly not dead. Like, my opponent has no action on board yet. We'll see if they tap out for something stupid here. Pride Mage is fine. Pride Mage and Death Right, sure. Just invalidate this sword. Alright. Alright. We're so dead that we have to start saying it in Latin because it's a dead language. Is that where we're at? Requiescat in Pace. Hey, I can wasteland that thing. So I've got that going for me. You bet. You can have that Batterskull. Joke's on you. I didn't want it anyway. Can't even trade with this Pride Mage in combat because Exalted is broken. Hate, 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 hate. Always no. Also always no. I accept. So, like, this neuters the death right. The Pride Mage is probably locked into blowing up this sword so I don't take over the game, so it might not be able to remove the rest in peace. We're not dead. Like, we're like one really good spell away from being dead. Alright. Stoneforge is pretty good. Shame the Batterskull's gone. So my opponent should probably, like, block here and then get rid of something. Not going for it. Is he playing Dark Maverick? I don't think so. Like, I think he's just, like, straight up playing a junk deck with infinite copies of Lingering Souls. Like, I think he is just legitimately playing junk. Like, I haven't seen, like, a Green Sun Zenith or anything of that nature to, like, suggest that he's truly Maverick. I haven't seen a Stoneforge or anything of that nature. Like, I have just only seen decent value cards. Yeah, so, like, this is the stuff I'm talking about. So, like, I don't think he is Dark Maverick. I think he is just junk. Don't really know why my opponent is making this attack, because, like, I'm not going to block with the Stoneforge anyway, so they're going to get 4 damage in no matter what. They have no cards left, so they're not even bluffing anything. No, no, we do not call it Abzan. We do not use that word on this stream. Ugh. Alright, land. Land. Alright, so we have a land. So, like, now we get to start throwing equipment into Pride Mages. I'm going to throw the Sword of Fire and Ice away first, since the Jitte is more valuable. Chat's now trolling me with my hatred for Neo names. In retrospect, like, maybe I'm not supposed to attack with a Thalia. Maybe I'm supposed to just, like, equip the sword and, like, leave the Thalia back to be on the defensive. That way I can make a block with it. But I guess if I leave the Thalia back, my opponent is still just attacking with a 3/3 anyway. so I took 2 more damage than I needed to by attacking with the Thalia. Like, it's really a shame that I can't, like, super capitalize on this Swords to Plowshares. I'm going to go ahead and put this on the Stoneforge. Attack with the Stoneforge. My opponent will then go ahead and activate to blow up my Jitte. All Swords to Plowshares the Bob. And then it's my top decks versus their top decks. Feeling really happy you don't have crazy music in the background. I can hear and concentrate on what you're doing. Yeah, so there's 2 reasons I don't have music. Number 1, I can only do so much at a time, and interacting with the chat and keeping my records and like doing commentary and playing my game is a lot. So if I do all of that, like it's a lot on me in terms of like being mentally taxing. And reason number 2 is I do not want my replays on Twitch or YouTube muted due to copyright infringement. That's not a road I want to walk down. Like, I want everyone to be able to watch my replays if they don't see me live. Like, that's one issue with, like, Bahra's stream, for example. It's, like, it is a wonderful stream, and I love it, but, like, he plays a lot of really fun music, and, on the times when it's not his own, I can't watch the replays and hear what he has to say. So, like, that's why I don't have music. Ooh, Abandon Reason. An opponent scoops it up. I respect it. Oh, my opponent conceded match there. Okay. So we won. Or I guess, so we were on the play, and we won. So, like, if we're looking at why we won, like, Rest in Peace turned the game around. And the equipment I had forced my opponent to, like, use their only creatures for removal spells. So that was a very narrow win. And I think we probably could have gotten game 3, like, now that we have those Rest in Peace and other value-oriented cards in. I don't know why my opponent conceded the whole match, though. That's unusual. Sorry, I just have to make a note of that. Alright, back in we go. Seems like wife/mother issues. Yeah, that's fair. Like, I don't have a lot of distractions here. You know, when I sit down to stream, I can, you know, dedicate the 2 or 3 hours it needs to with minimal disruptions, other for when I have to run up to the bathroom and refill my water bottle. You know, that's all I've got to do. But, you know, plenty of people are married, have kids, have other random responsibilities, and I'm over here prepping for anime conventions and playing Magic, so, you know, that's my evening. I'm pretty happy with that. So anyone who wasn't here earlier when I announced this, you know, I'm looking to grow the stream a little bit. I have some various rewards at different number of followers. You know, every time I hit a new follower threshold, I'm going to go ahead and stream a bonus stream that week, culminating in a Tin Fin stream when I hit 500 followers. This hand seems great. I've played against this player before. So they're a Delver player, it looks like. His hand seems great against Delver. I'm gonna preemptively fetch Plains. Just play around Stifle. R4WK 5T4R Rockstar. The Daredevil mix seems to be not as good as traditional. Unclear. So I have exactly a 60% win rate with the Daredevil build after 4 different leagues with it. I've 3-2'd 4 different leagues with it in a row. So like over 100-something matches with my regular red-white build, I was, I think, at 63% or 64%, something like that. I think that sounds right. So it is not significantly different from what I'm doing now. So my Thalia is probably going to get like fatal pushed here, and then I am going to jam a Magus of the Moon. And my opponent is probably going to die. Note that my opponent can just have a lightning bolt to invalidate this play, but like, make them have it. I don't have time to play, I live vicariously through you. Glad to help. You know, a year ago, you know, I was in the position where, like, I love D&T, but, like, alright, you got the bolt. Fine. Where, like, I had to watch videos because, like, I just couldn't afford to sink the money into Magic Online. And I slowly saved up for the deck, and I've been very happy after doing so. Alright, him me, take a Thalia, and sword. That's pretty good. Jitte and Batterskull are both great here. I'm going to go ahead and get Batterskull. If my opponent doesn't kill the Stoneforge, then the Batterskull takes over the game. If my opponent does kill the Stoneforge and I draw a land, I slam the Batterskull. So I'm okay with either scenario. My opponent has used 2 1-mana removal spells already. I'll see if they have a third. Oh, Savage. So it looks like my opponent is actually on check pile. Alright. We'll see if this game illustrates why I don't like this card against check pile. Various crashing noises. Pretty much. wonder if my opponent is just, like, sitting there looking at, like, Force of Will, Force of... Oh! Oh, baby. It's happening. My opponent says, "Don't!" in the chat. I'll give him a funny face back. What did my opponent pitch with their Force of Will? Alright, Force pitching Force. So this is why I don't like Palace Jailer in this matchup. Like, if I did not have the Swords to Plowshares right now, then, like, this Baleful Strix would just take the crown, and I'd never, ever, ever get it back. So I am aware that I can Flickerwish the Jailer to flicker the Baleful Strix. But that line's bad if my opponent has a 1-mana removal spell for the Jailer. So I think I'm just gonna Swords to Plowshares the Baleful Strix instead. That way, unless my opponent has Force and blue card, I don't let them become the Monarch. I guess it's not 100% soft to a removal spell, because if my opponent kills the Jailer, then I still have the Flicker Wisp. To, like, block the Strix. So I guess it's bad to 2 removal spells. Yeah, good thing my opponent doesn't have Force of Will. I think I want to get a little more value off this Flicker Wisp, so I'm just going to Swords. Like, if my opponent plays some real creature and I get to Palace Jailer that, or I get to use this to, like, blink my Stoneforge and get the Jitte, I'll feel really good about my position. I'll go ahead and take my opponent off the bulk. Like, since they have a fetch land, mostly what I tap is moot. So, like, if they draw something like a Culligan's Command and they don't have it right now, I'd rather just, like, make them have to fetch if they want to do that. Yeah. Alright. So, like, this is, again, this is the sort of reason why I don't necessarily like Palace Jailer, because my opponent has all of these disposable creatures and a bunch of, like, cheap removal that they can play a tempo game with. Like, if my opponent plays second creature right here, I am scared. If my opponent plays removal spell here, I'm kind of scared. If my opponent plays Hymn to Turok here, I'm kind of scared. Like, there are so many things my opponent can play that just terrify me. And since my opponent is fetching twice, like, I don't like what my opponent is doing here. Alright, Abrupt Decay the Stoneforge, sure. Alright, I would really like to dodge my opponent having a removal spell as their draw for turn. Alright, we dodged. Great. Caracas is pretty insane. I kind of value just, like, playing out some idiots here. But maybe I can't play too scared. Like, my opponent's life total is under duress. I can attack in, put my opponent to 9, play Flicker with Stoneforge, be threatening 6 damage on the following turn. Or I can just, like, attack with Thalia, cast Flicker Wisp, blink Thalia, port. Hey, Static Grip, thanks for stopping by. Yeah, okay, I'm fine with an attack. Play Flicker Wisp, Bile for Mystic the next turn. Yeah. I'll tap in a way that will let me cast Stoneforge, though. So I'm like 99% sure that my opponent doesn't actually have a removal spell, because they would have used it to take the crown if they did. Do I want to protect Thalia with Caracas, or do I want to port? I honestly think I want to port. Like, I don't super care about the Thalia, and like I have stuff to do with my mana, and I'm just going to get more things to do with my mana. So let's just, like, take my opponent off of casting a Culligan's Command if they draw it. They don't have a fetch now, so. How's it been going today? I've been loving my Direfleet Daredevils. They haven't done anything yet today. They can do some sweet stuff starting right now, though. So I can cast Recruiter for Direfleet Daredevil, Culligan's Command, killing their Snapcaster and making them discard a card. Or I can Recruiter of the Guard for Magus of the Moon and moon them. A lot of lines. Again, I don't think my opponent really has anything right now. Kind of like just mooning them, honestly. Moon Man. If I wasn't so far ahead on board, I would probably just, like, get P and K and, like, play the long game with P and K. But I'm very, very far ahead right now. Alright, my opponent has A basic. But A basic probably isn't good enough. And if my opponent happens to have, like, Swamp and Toxic Deluge for 2, that puts them at 1 life, and then the Stoneforge attacks in for lethal. So, yeah, we got there. So game 1 win. Like I guess we attribute the win to Palace Jailer. Like Magus of the Moon technically was the finishing blow there, but I guess Palace Jailer is what dug us out of a tough spot. Although it was awkward. Yeah. Alright, so I'll say game 1, awkward, Jailer win. We'll be on the draw for this next game. Yeah, it was a team effort. Jailer drew a lot of cards. Alright. So we'll board in Rest in Peace, PNK, Recruiter, Crusader, Angel. Prelates are maybes, but probably nots. We'll board out Swords to Plowshares. We'll board out Revoker. And I kind of want to board out Jailer. I usually board out Jailer. If I board out Jailer, I bring in Prelate. If I bring in Prelate, I guess I can board out a Dire Fleet. I can also just consider doing this since I'm bringing in the Rest in Peace. Like, I can trim Dire Fleet for Prelate. Or I can keep the Dire Fleets in for the times when I don't have Rest in Peace. Then I just get, like, good value, and I get to, like, him them, and Culligan's command them, and Abrupt Decay them. Oh, thank you so much for subscribing. Can't even pronounce your name. Cymek. Oh, is it, like, just a weird spelling of mech? Cymek 2000. Thank you very much for joining. I really appreciate it. Unclear. I think I'll leave the Prelates for this time and, like, see how I feel about this. So, relevant. Chemist backwards. Oh, I missed the obvious. See, I can't stare at the chat and figure that stuff out. Good on you, Kenny. You figured it out. You have solved the puzzle. Yeah, so CryptRat says, check file on 0 cards doesn't happen often. They usually have all of the answers. Well, this hand looks great. It has a couple of moms to put my opponent to the removal test, and it has, like, Thalias and Moonmen as, like, the plan once I have a piece of protection up. Alright, task number 1. Do you have a 1-mana removal spell this turn? Alright, so just sort of on the science train here. I'm actually trained in the sciences as well. I have an undergrad degree in biology, but I took a left-hand turn with my career and decided to teach Latin. Okay, I have a couple of choices this turn. Drawing this Caracas is awkward. So I can just play Thalia and, like, use my mana efficiently. Or I can play Mom and, like, force another removal spell to go with the Mom. I kind of like playing Thalia and then following up with, like, second Caracas and Moonman on the next turn. But I could play this one slower and then go Mom, make them answer that, Thalia, and, like, go from there. Check pile is so greedy, you can throw your entire trade binder and a couple of basic lands in there, and it still somehow works. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and Thalia this turn. So there are a couple of different ways that you can construct the check pile mana base. It depends on how greedy you want to be, and I know that's funny to say because Czech Pile is such an incredibly greedy deck in the first place. But like there are some Czech Piles that will be like 4-color decks that also have Wasteland. And like there are some that run like an island, or some that run an island and a swamp. It really depends. Running the island is like really bad because it slows down your ability to cast Abrupt Decay and Hymn to Turok, so like it is not free. I appreciate the turn. I didn't like biology a whole lot. I didn't like memorizing taxonomy, but I did enjoy the dissecting. That's funny. Like, I loved the taxonomy. Like, that was one of my favorite parts about it. You know, that's probably not surprising, given the fact that I'm so into Latin. Like, I was interested in plant sciences, and so, like, I was really into, like, figuring out all their scientific names and what they meant. I kind of don't want to jam a Moon Man into this removal. I kind of want to wait on the Moon Man. And I know I'm all about jamming Moon Man, but I think I want to Mom and Stoneforge this turn, and then if they use some of their mana on their turn, I'll slam Moon Man number 1. I also could just, like, waste them and play Stoneforge. But if I was going to waste them, I should have wasted them off of green pre-combat. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and drop the Caracas Guard on Thalia. You know, we're putting up this Mom Shield instead. And I'll get Sword of Fire, nice. If my opponent, like, answers Mom here with a Decay and then hymns me, I still have a decent chance of keeping a Magus of the Moon in my hand as a follow-up play. And, like, ooh, interesting. Answers the Stoneforge. That might mean that they just have more removal, or it might mean I might see something like a Toxic Deluge for 1 out of them. No, they'd just do Toxic Deluge for 2 if they had Deluge. What does that mean? Marsh Casualties? Marsh Casualties. Alright. Show me Fatal Push. Alright. So now my opponent can draw to a red removal spell or counter magic for this. Yeah, they don't have Revolt for push. Yeah. So I guess it was Show Me Lightning Bolt. Or Force at Will. So it's Force, pitching a Baleful Strix. They're down to 1 card, and I have a bunch of Haymakers in hand. Like, other than the Caracas, all 3 of these cards are good enough to take over the game in this matchup. Why do I keep drawing more Caracases, man? Alright, so my opponent just lets that go. I want to get this Rest in Peace in play sooner rather than later. Oh, wow. Force pitch Brainstorm for that. Deal. Alright. So my opponent is now on 1 card, which is a land. They are on 0 cards, so I get to resolve Magus of the Moon. And, finally, I will get to have a basic when I do so. So this is super neat because my opponent will get 2 draws in order to find a red piece of removal, since I have this sword. Now it's easy street, yeah. So on my next turn I'll play sword, and then on the following turn I'll sword and equip. So most of my opponent's deck now becomes dead draws. We will not attack into the Baleful Strix and turn on all of my opponent's lands. So this is the opportunity where my opponent has to have it. They get Brainstorm for a couple more looks. But if they don't have it here, they are Brainstorm locked, and I have a Magus equipped with a sword that beats through Baleful Strix and shuts off all of their lands. Oh, they have a swamp. That's great. If they have a Fatal Push, though, they don't have Revolt. Too strong. And I'm going to shoot them over their Baleful Strix so as to not give them Revolt for push. Yeah, Crypt Rat, you got the same line I did. Yeah, that's why I shot them, not the Strix. Do not want to turn on push, which is one of their... Literally, they're only out at this point? Right? No, I guess they could Deluge for 4. They can Deluge for 4. They can somehow get push Revolt. I guess they could... what else could they even do? Wow, that is a Jitte. Oh, they can bolt Strix for Revolt. Oh yeah, yes, of course. That strong line. That line of ultimate sadness. So since my opponent Brainstorm locked themselves previously, this is their first draw where they actually get a new card. I expect my opponent to just concede here if they don't have something. A little Baleful Strix that could. And there the opponent concedes. Moonman carrying a big sword decimates control player. Yep, life's good. Alright, so... Game 2, we were on the draw, and we win. So game 2, it was essentially a slow-rolled Magus win. Like, I could have jammed Magus a little bit earlier, but like I kind of waited patiently, and it paid off. Like I think the first Magus ate it to removal, and then the second one stuck. Good job, Phil. Punish the greed that is check pile. Yeah, like, it is a very, very greedy deck. If you try to jam Wastelands or basics into it, it does make it worse in some regards. All right, so for anyone who joined the stream a little bit late, hi, my name's Phil Gallagher. I run Thraben University, and this is the deck list that we're playing today. It has a couple of spicy cards, like Direfleet Daredevil and a Restoration Angel in the sideboard. I'm going to go ahead and run to the restroom real quick. Give me about 30 seconds here. If you have any questions about the list, feel free to throw it in the chat, and I'll answer them momentarily. All right, what does the chat say? I hate check pile. You shouldn't be able to play every good card in Legacy and not get punished. I mean, the deck does get punished. Like, it's a tier 1 deck. It's one of the best decks in the format right now, but, like, it is somewhat easy to just knock check pile off balance in the initial turns of the game and destroy them. You know, if you, like, Wasteland Stifle them, and you get 2 of, like, their 3 first lands, they are probably just dead. I hate the concept. Some lists are playing Kess now because more value in 3/4 flyer. Kess is sweet, but it makes the deck even softer to a Rest in Peace than it already is. And Kess is also better on Moto than it is in real life because it's bugged on Moto, and you can just cast cards whenever you want. Playing against the Atog Lord. Looks like my opponent plays a ton of Vintage, but no Legacy data. This is not a great hand. So this hand has 4 lands and 3 spells, which is a good mix on paper, but this hand doesn't necessarily do anything. I'm on the draw. I am on the draw. Against a fair deck, I get to lead on Mom, and then Wasteland or Port. So this one should maybe go back. If I draw a 2-drop I like, this hand becomes good. Like, if the top of my deck is, like, Stoneforge, Revoker, Jitte, Thalia, I'm super happy with this hand. Or even if it's like a Vial, I'm also really happy with this. So that might be enough hits where I keep this, even though it's awkward. I will reluctantly keep. Alright, Island. Portent. Sure. So we were playing against Miracles. This is a subpar hand against Miracles. You really want to have early pressure versus them. So there's one of the 2-drops that would have made me really like this hand. Unsure if I'll just port my opponent or play out this Revoker. I'll probably just play the Revoker. Might even attack with the Mom, honestly. So my opponent doesn't have 1-drop removal right now. Otherwise, they would have just, like, plowed the Mom. and I don't really care about protecting the Revoker either. So it's very possible that I should just like attack in with the Mom to push damage before the Mom just gets Terminused, which is weird. So my Brainstorm is, or my opponent is probably going to Brainstorm and try to set up a Terminus to get 2 of my creatures here. Although alternatively, like, they can Brainstorm and find a Plow, but if like they were just going to Brainstorm and find a Plow, they would have Brainstormed on their turn. Let's get aggressive. And I'm going to play this Revoker 100% fully expecting it to just die to Brainstorm Terminus. Yeah. So, like, even if I suspect my opponent is going to Brainstorm Terminus, I can't afford to not play a creature when my only creature is Mother of Runes. Like, I have to present some amount of pressure to my opponent. Also, Phil knows I love to Blood Moon and Chalice people, so I really hate 4-color greed decks. I mean, then just play the like mono red prison deck. It's sweet. It has Chalice and all the Blood Moons you could possibly want. Mom is so awkward in the Miracles matchup. Yeah, like, it's wonderful against Swords to Plowshares and Snapcaster Swords to Plowshares, but it's terrible against Terminus. Hallowed Burial is so balanced at 1 mana and instant speed. Totally. Alright, Swords to Plowshares is a pretty terrible draw. So my question now is, do I want to fetch for Plains or do I want to fetch for Plateau? Plains plays around back to basics a little bit. My opponent shuffled with their Ponder, so they're looking for something, probably land. I'll go ahead and get Plateau with this one. To be fair, every non-Thragtusk / Gaddock creature is weak to Terminus, yeah. That is very true. Like, there are... Alright, so my opponent didn't shuffle that time, so they found a land. They portent themselves, you know, probably looking for more land. I will be slamming this Palace Jailer on my turn, and hoping that that puts me pretty far ahead. And I will have a Swords to Plowshares for a potential Snapcaster Mage that comes down and tries to steal the crown. See if they just, like, randomly Terminus me here. Nope. Alright, Force, Pitch, Counterspell. That's unfortunate, but not unexpected. Jailer seems solid in the matchup. Kind of. Like, it's really good when it's really good, and then when it's bad, it just loses you the game because they end up turning Snapcaster and take the crown. Alright, so they get rid of an unexpectedly absent. Probably because they can't produce white-white. So now we get to keep them off of Terminus, which is sweet. Alright, you get to Swords to Plowshares to Thalia. I accept. I'm going to fetch to Thin, I think. I can keep it around to, like, potentially shuffle with Direfleet Daredevil. But I think I just want to be drawing gas here. Alright, there's some comment about Marchesa that I'm going to have to read when my opponent is thinking about something. I've been testing Marchesa in in French Commander. I thought you were going to say, like, in Legacy. I was like, what are you playing? Yeah, like, you do get to grind out the random blue decks with the Monarch, but, like, the issue is when they take that crown and take over the game, it's devastating. Well, goodbye to your creature, too. Normally at this stage of the game, I save Wasteland for a flipped search for Azcanta, but since my opponent is tight on mana and I have nothing, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of their Bulk. Hey Phil, you remember how you just said I save it for search for Azcanta when it flips at this stage of the game? Super punished for not doing that. It's kind of tilting. Oh well. Alright, so my opponent milled a counterbalance there. And I'll go ahead and tap their fetch land down in response. I'm the Flash, the fastest man alive. Not when I'm streaming and talking, but normally I do play pretty quickly. Alright, they get a Brainstorm. So my opponent has 5 cards in hand and that search. All of this does not mean good things for me. Better tap basics for port in case they have back to basics. That's a fair point. Although I'd kind of be happy with them playing a back to basics at this point since they're a search for Azcanta deck. I'm gonna get Sword of Fire and Ice. And so I can cast it now while they don't have actual counterspell up. I don't think this Stoneforge is going to make it around the table one way or another, so I don't think there is a real option to Violet in. So I am casting it. So, like, since I knew about this Brainstorm, my opponent can set up a Terminus, or they can find a Swords to Plowshares here. Or they can just counter it. Like, there's any number of things that can go wrong. And I will go ahead and equip instead of porting on the off chance that they don't have removal for it, so that they can't Jace bounce the Stoneforge. But I just expect the Stoneforge is going bye-bye. Alright, entreat the Angels. Probably just dead to that. With a draw like that, do I have any draw next turn that can get me out of this? Maybe. Probably not. But I'll play on. Like, I'll see how many Angels my opponent attacks with. So who is Rich Shea? Is he just one of, like, the random WotC commentator people? Like, I recognize the name, but I feel like it's not someone that I care about? Question mark? From the results that I saw, certainly looks to be a vintage player. Oh, Vintage God. I like the sound of that. Oh, do I just know his name from, like, vintage deck lists, then, that I've seen? Okay. One of the most vocal voices in the vintage community in a good way. Okay, I'm mixing him up with someone else, then. Ooh, alright, unexpectedly absent on the Stoneforge. Alright, I need to turn off my auto-yields. And I'm gonna need to fetch away my Stoneforge to, like, give myself any chance of living. I think I'm on 0 outs. Like, a Flicker Wisp only gets rid of 2 of these things. Wait, hold on. Daredevil Terminus. Daredevil Terminus, chat. And opponent doesn't have a removal spell. That is my out. That is my out. Alright, let's do it. Let's do it. Ah, we didn't do it. But let the record show that there was an out. Alright, so we lost that one. So we lost to the Atog Lord. So game 1, OP has Force for Jailer, and then Flip Search. Our opening hand was weak anyway. Alright, so PN Kieran in. Recruiter in. Probably all these random creatures in. Relic Warder, maybe. Swords to Plowshares, definitely out. And Magus of the Moon, definitely out. And that puts us about where we want to be. Again, Palace Jailer is super awkward in this matchup. but I don't have another card I would want to board in over it. I tested Leon and Relic Order in this matchup a bit to see if its sniping Search for Escanta was enough, but that hasn't tended to happen. And like Canonist versus Snapcaster Mage like does something, but again is awkward. What's the thought process behind Resto Angel? So at the beginning of the stream, I went on this long discussion about like what sort of card would I want that would fill a whole bunch of slots, especially if I stop boarding Rest in Peace in the Delver matchup. And so we talked about wanting to have one more flyer in the deck, and also something that could fill mid-range slots for matchups like Check Pile, and Restoration Angel was what we came up with. Have not drawn it yet. This hand has not an Ether Vial, which is what I want, but it has essentially three cards that cantrip, right? It has 3 additional value cards, so that's fine. We're gonna board in Mentor, so Plow over Revoker. Maybe. Like I don't know my opponent's deck list to know for sure that they have that. So since I have 3 Stoneforges, I kind of want to just put this on Artificer because it works for both P and K and Stoneforge, and I know that won't make the Prelate uncounterable, but like just wave after wave of uncounterable Stoneforges seems sweet. And to get them to incentivize them to kill it, I'm getting Batterskull with the first one. So this should get Swords, and then, you know, every Stoneforge after this, I just put them to the test. Do you have it? That's a great draw. I'm not going to play around back to basics this game. So my plan is to make them burn their initial resources on these Stoneforges, and then set Prelate to 6 to stop Terminus. So if my opponent does nothing other than play a land, I'll use my mana from my turn to put in a Batterskull. Or maybe sort of Fire and Ice if it looks like I'm going to get Terminus. Opponent's thinking quite a bit about the Brainstorm, so it's a tough one. I guess my opponent was considering whether or not he could, like, wait on the removal spell there, but I feel like the answer was no. Alright, there's a Search. Search is great. Opponent has 5 cards in graveyard already. Since my Vial ticks up to 2 the next turn and I want to Vial in the Stoneforge, I'm going to play Prelate this turn. This does expose it to a counterspell. Oh, that just worked. And I'll put it on 1. This will make it so that if my opponent is going to Terminus me, it has to be off of something they do with Search for Iskanta, or like just naturally. Oh wow, they got rid of a Containment Priest? That seems like it would be a great card right now, because it could ambush Prelate and stop Vial. Ah, so they are on the Mentor plan. Well, the Mentor plan is a lot worse in the face of everything that I have going on right now. Well, chat, I'm going to need to take a picture of this one, because... Oh, no, I can't Swords to Plowshares the Mentor because of my Prelate. Oh. Oh. That's super sad. I was almost excited. So I can just put in a Stoneforge and like off my Vial and cast a piece of equipment, intending on just getting there with the equipment plus a random dude. The question is, like, do I want to get Jitte and play Jitte, or do I want to play Sword of Fire and Ice? I kind of want to, like... I wish I had, like, one more relevant 2-mana card that I wanted to play out. Because then I could, like, do a 2-mana thing and leave Daredevil for Swords to Plowshares up if my opponent removes his Prelate. So I think I'm going to jam my Pro Jace sword. My opponent is F6'd. Do I want to offer a trade, Monastery Mentor for Prelate? I do not think that I do currently. Wait for the predict. Cryptrat, I agree with playing Sword of Fire and Ice, obviously. See the chat after you guys say it. What do we have? We have Where targeting the sword, I think. Yeah, targeting the sword. Well, little do you know, opponent. Still have a Batterskull in hand. Or I guess you do know that. You don't know I have another Stoneforge, though. Sure, I'll take 3. Alright, and you get to flip or search for Iskanta, which is all nice and good. And I get a Stoneforge. So I kind of want to leave this Vial on 2 for a little while, since I have like 2 2-mana cards, and I don't foresee myself needing to Flicker Wisp anything just yet. So super rewarded for all of that. Rewarded for all of that. Again, don't need to take any attacks with a prelate yet. I'm not going to just run it into a naked Snapcaster and give my opponent that huge value. In my opponent's draw step, I will put in my Thalia. And I'll put the Batterskull in first, because if I get another land, I have the option to Jitte and equip, although it's unlikely that I'll want to let the shields down on this Thalia. And again, I will just pass with the Daredevil up to do things and putting in the Jitte. Alright, opponent gets a Terminus. That is annoying, but not altogether the end of the world. So my opponent needs another land to just hardcast Terminus. That's good. Alright, opponent missed their land. So I'll put in this. I can tick the Vial up to like keep them off of Terminus for one more turn. What's my opponent casting? This is targeting. That's targeting Jitte. Okay. So my opponent is just going to like chump block with the monk here. unexpectedly absent my prelate. Alright, so my prelate's just going to go to the top of my deck. My opponent. No. Okay. So I think I'm fine with all of that happening. So if my opponent doesn't cast this Terminus because they don't draw a land, then I would really like to use my Pirate to Swords to Plowshares their mentor. But if they spike the land, it's a super bad play. I'm gonna go ahead and do it. So if they spike the land and they tap out to Terminus, I bounce my Thalia, I put my Thalia back in, I equip Thalia with Batterskull if I draw another land. But this leaves me in a better position to just aggro my opponent out. And I'm going to leave this at 2 and just intend on leaving it at 2 basically forever due to Thalia bouncing. So I'll say always no to this for the time being. I can use my 5 mana to bounce and redeploy with Batterskull. Go ahead and attack in with both of these idiots and see what happens. So, with this attack, I don't really care if my opponent plays 1 spell, but I care quite a bit if they play 2. Alright, that's a Jace. That is worrisome. But if they cast it, I have this Revoker. And I'll get sick value. So my opponent will now double block one of my critters. Yep, okay, so double block Thalia. I kill one. I'll bounce my Thalia. I will cast my Thalia. And then I'll pass. If my opponent terminuses, they get my board, but then I'll Revoker on Jace, put Batterskull in on it, and bash, followed by ticking up Vial. Oh no, I just walked into Terminus. Shoot, that was stupid. Alright, so my opponent will tap out for Jace. I'll put it in off of Vial. Put Batterskull on it, and this is going to work out, but it was bad on my end. So if my opponent has Swords to Plowshares here, it's super bad. They do not. Which is awesome. Rich Shay's reaction to the Daredevil was priceless. Neat. A pithing needle, you say? Alright. It's unclear whether my opponent will name Batterskull or Ether Vial here. Both are very problematic cards at this stage of the game. So I'm going to get to crash in for 7 here and make my opponent have a bad time. So temporarily, I'll say always no to this. Attack for 7. I'm presenting lethal on board, but I'm going to be Trixie. My opponent just hard casting an Entreat. More like Flicker Wispy instead of Trixie. I can see it. I wish I would have paid attention to... Okay. So that's 7 mana, so what does that make? A 4/4? Alright, so there as Kanta Ing. A Predict. Okay. Just gonna flicker out one of their lands. This eliminates the option of like predict into Terminus. Alright, so game 2, win via attrition. So chat, I'm probably not going to interact with you all at all this game, and I'm just going to focus on my game because my clock is low. This has one land, I'm going to mulligan it. This has multiple lands, so I'll keep it. Port, I'm going to put on the bottom here. I don't think I have physical time to be porting. So the good news is that when I actually play fast, I'm going to play much faster than my opponent because my opponent has like cantrips and stuff, and I don't. Alright, there goes. Yep, alright, so that'll just be a Pithing Needle on Mom. Which means that Mom is just going to get there and attack this game. Under normal circumstances, I probably wouldn't commit this Stoneforge, but we are not in normal circumstances. Unexpectedly absent the Thalia. Yes, I'll use this. We'll get Jitte. So what's awesome here is that, like, if my opponent doesn't remove this, thinking that, like, I just actually wanted the Jitte, then I get to put in the Batterskull. Although my opponent might do something annoying, like just Jace here. Yep. It's like Jace bounce Stoneforge is annoying. So my opponent will need like a Snapcaster Mage or multiple pieces of removal to save this Jace. Alright, yeah, so like a Snapcaster plus Unexpectedly Absent here buys a turn. I will trade a body for the Snapcaster in all likelihood. Yeah, so they Fate Seal that to the bottom. Unluckily for them, I have this Revoker. The Revoker names Senor Jace. And I'll still attack Jace, even though like it's not a lethal attack in. If they want to trade for the Snapcaster, I accept. Oh, Terminus is rough. Realistically, my win condition might be to, like, time out my opponent at this point. They would have to start Fate Sailing me pretty soon in order to beat the clock. Or they could just, like, jam a Mentor. Alright, that's annoying. Alright. Forget what I said about timing them out. I need to draw some lands so I can, like, Mom and Stoneforge. Alright, that's good. So human means that I can cast that Mom. It's uncounterable. And then I'll cast this Stoneforge. Alright, so my opponent has a force. Not great for me. Unfortunately, I can't just like F6 right now because I can't put in this Batterskull pre-combat, or the Jace will just bounce the token. I will accept the block. Play another spell for me. Alright, so here's this Restoration Angel. It's all fine. Oh, savage. Yeah, we're dead. Yeah, it was a very interesting match. If my opponent doesn't have Entreat, like they only have like 50 seconds left, so I don't think they can beat us. If that game would have played out more naturally, we both would have taken like very, very different lines. But it was a very interesting match. Like I enjoyed that a lot. My draws broke wrong a couple of times that one, but no real complaints. Based on his hand, he likely still wins without entreat there. Do you mean like if the game played out naturally, or like could he have killed me in like 2 attack steps with his hand? Because like that's about all he's getting. I would like to play first. So I think my opponent was last seen on Belcher. I think I've played them recently. Were they on Belcher then? So the last 2 times I've played this player, they've been on a Stone Blade type deck. And if that's the case, a hand with like double Stoneforge Mystic is probably fine on the play. This isn't ideal. Like, I need more lands for what I've got going on, but like I'm fine with this. And why does it keep putting that in front of my library? That's like super annoying. Yeah, like, so I know my opponent does play Belcher, but like the last 2 times I've played this player, they've been on like a Stoneblade deck of some nature. So I tend to trust that in my data set. Like, everybody has a weird day and decides they want to play Belcher from time to time. Oh man, that's super unfortunate they played that Hierarch, because like Moonman would be sweet. Alright, so looking to hit land drops, because with land drops, like, I get to Moonman, I get to Direfleet and Swords to Plowshares. Don't be true name, don't be true name, don't be true name. Don't be true name. Please don't be true name. It's gonna be true name. There he is. That jerk. Alright. So I have no outs to true name, so I have to race it. Since I'm going to have to discard if I don't do anything, I'm going to go ahead and just activate this and put in my Batter Skull to like stop my opponent from attacking with the true name. Because otherwise they attack for 4 and then I crack back for 4 and gain the life right back. And then, you know, a couple turns down the line, I'll put in this sword and make it pro-blue. Alright, Moonman looking less good. God, why? Why? Okay, alright, never mind. I'll stop complaining. Until my opponent has a removal spell for this too, but... Yep. There we go. Bill can't catch a break today. Natural True Name Jitte in opener plus Mana Dork. Plus me missing land drop for Moonman. Arrgh. Alright, so that was a really big misplay by my opponent in not using these Jitte counters to kill the Stoneforge, because now I can put my Sword of Fire and Ice in, and previously I could not. Like, in order to capitalize on that misplay, I am going to need to draw lands. So, like, if my opponent doesn't do anything and they sit on 4 Jitte counters, then the 4 Jitte counters can just kill the Germ token if I try to equip it. So, like, I'm still in really bad shape, and I'm probably just stone cold dead to any one, like, removal spell or anything like that. Oh, great. A Stoneforge Mystic for a Batter Skull. Or even a Sword of Fire and Ice is just crippling. I don't think I can beat that. Like, I don't think I was going to beat the board anyway, but, like, there was hope. Yep. Okay. So my opponent has 4 Jitte counters, so they could just attack for 8. They can effectively hit for 11, 12 right now, and then I'm dead to like the True Name Crackback on the following turn. Or no, they only have 2 Jitte counters. Okay. Alright, so I equip Stoneforge. It eats 2 counters, and then I can't do anything with the Germ. I equip Batter Skull eats 4 counters, and then I can't do anything with the rest of my turn, and I discard a card. So my only realistic line is equip this and hope opponent does not click correctly with Jitte. Alright, my opponent clicked correctly. I will concede, not beating that. So game 1, OP has, I think it was turn 3 True Name and then turn 4 Jitte. Not beating that sort of hand. Alright, so what do I want to do in this matchup? Lose. I get Relic Warder to stop a Jitte coming down. And then I have to decide what I want to do with the rest of my game. I have to decide whether or not I want to fight on the removal front at all by removing their mana idiots, or if I just want to let that go. Palace Jailer seems really bad against the True Name deck. Do I want to P and K them and like play a mid-range game? Do I want to try to aggro them out quickly? Like, is this Magus of the Moon too ambitious when they have mana dorks? Or do I play a game where I try to swords them and then stick Magus? I kind of like Resto to protect my stuff. P and K might be too slow, but like it creates bodies, which is nice. Like, I can try to, like, prelate and lock them off of ones, but, again, if they just, like, cast True Names, doesn't matter. It's sort of a really frustrating matchup on a number of levels. So I think I'll intend on leaving my Violet 3 and not board that in. And then trim one random card. I know my opponent is playing a bunch of Zealous Persecutions because they've killed me with them before, so maybe I'll just trim one Mom. So with a red land, this hand is insane. Because I curve like Mom into Port You into Magus. But whiffing on that land means this hand is pretty bad. But I get my second and third turn, so I get 2 draws for a red land. It's not great. I will keep it. Like, I have such a grim outlook on this matchup that, like, what do I mulligan for that's better is sort of the situation. So, like, I'm kind of hoping to dodge Mana Dork, port them, draw land, moon them, and hope that's good enough. And instead of Jitte, I will just port them. Again, I want to keep them from doing anything, if at all possible, and then spike a land for Magus. Alright, so they don't have a Mana Dork. That's awesome. Again, playing to the Magus line, I'm just going to buy time. But now I will port them off the land that will let them play a Mana Dork if they draw one. Alright, opponent has Jitte. But, do they have a counterspell? Nope. Alright, we win. I think they should have literal 0 outs to that, yeah. Fun interactive magic here. True name Jitte, win. Magus, win. Alright, well, let's see if we can have a more interesting next game. So we're on the draw for the next one. Being on the draw against the True Name deck is kind of rough. Maybe on the draw I'm supposed to like board in all of these paths and just try to keep them off of mana dorks. My opponent's deck shouldn't have a basic in it. It's really greedy to do so in like a ridiculous 4-color deck. The issue with doing something like that though is that like if they still just naturally get to 3 mana, they still just joke's on you, I was going to cast 0 spells without Magus as well. Worst brainstorm of my life. But I think I like what I did. Restoration Angel might just be too slow on the draw, so I could just bring in a different generic guy like Mirren Crusader, who will be sweet if it ever gets to connect with equipment. I could also like board in the prelates as a way to just try to lock my opponent out of a game and just like play a non-game if my opponent has a bumpy start and like has to mulligan or something. Maybe that's fine. So go prelate, prelate. Get rid of another mom. This doesn't have colored mana, but it's a really good Vile hand. So if my opponent doesn't lead on a mana dork, this hand is amazing. But my opponent leads on a mana dork. So this hand just transitions to good. Like, the good news is, oh man, I'm gonna get to Revoker both of those? Ooh. Don't Stoneforge here. So it's super annoying that these have Exalted. If they didn't, I could just, like, revoke Hierarch, take them off of 2 mana sources, and, like, plan on fighting the Stoneforge on the first strike front. But that's not gonna work. So I'm gonna have to revoke Jitte instead, leaving them with 4 mana, which is not good. Alternatively, I can revoke the Hierarchs and try to wasteland them off of mana to equip Jitte. I'm not gonna mess around with it. Like, my hand's full of, like, low toughness creatures, and if my opponent connects with a Jitte, I am stone cold dead. I'm dead to a lot of what my opponent can do. Like, if my opponent goes, like, land, removal spell, Jitte, equip, swing, it's terrible. This is still really bad. Like, this means my opponent will get a Batterskull right now and can put it into play right now. Assuming there's a Batterskull in their deck, which there should be. Oh, Sword of Fire, nice. A Deathrite Shaman. Okay. Another Deathrite Shaman. Alright. My opponent has all of the duders here. Alright, this is not the end of the world. So, I can play a mum, put in my own stone forge, and port my opponent. I can chump block with my stone forge to prevent them from connecting, and then have my mom blank the attacks on the following turns. I want a Stoneforge for Sword of Fire and Ice, so I won't do anything else now. Man, Cursed Totem would be sweet right now. I don't know that I'd go that far. I'm going to go ahead and tick this up and just throw it out there on 1 and try to blank some of what my opponent is doing. There's still P and K in my deck. Now P and K is on the sideboard. Resto and Jailer are both on the sideboard, so I can always leave this at 3. So this game is interesting right now, but it becomes exactly 0 interesting if my opponent ever draws a true name. Because true name can break the parity with Mother of Runes. My opponent currently cannot produce black mana for a Zealous Persecution, which is great. Alright. Okay, Recruiter does things. So I can equip one of my guys with Sword of Fire and Ice. And then Recruiter for Revoker revoke Sword of Fire and Ice to keep the true name from getting equipped with it. Alright. Not dead yet. The question is, what do I want to equip? Probably Prelate. This was probably a misplay. Actually, this should have been Leon and Relic Order, and I could have tapped differently and like Leon and Relic Order their sword and then try to get aggressive. This will largely have the same effect. So I can't equip with this prelate, or I can't attack with this prelate because of my opponent double block. Well, maybe I can. If my opponent double blocks with their stone forges, then I protect. Or if my opponent blocks with like Stoneforge, Deathrite, I still protect white. And I attack with this prelate. And my opponent can't equip with the sword. Yeah, so maybe I do attack. Like, I guess I have to get aggressive because the True Name has me dead in 5 turns no matter what. Yeah. I also should have, like, not done this whole, like, recruiter thing beforehand. Well, that's what happens when you're streaming and, like, you're trying to talk through lines as you do them and, like, play at a reasonable pace. It's sort of unfortunate that my opponent has, like, this wall of creatures. If I preemptively give the Sanctum Prelate pro-white, I can attack, or, excuse me, pro-green, I can attack in and force a trade with the Stoneforge this turn. And if my opponent doesn't trade, then I can, like, Thalia. Yeah, alright. So this should get the Stoneforge jump block. So there are currently no lands in the graveyard. My opponent can't make black. If they have an Abrupt Decay, then casting this Batterskull sucks. They have a Zealous Persecution casting this Batterskull. Sucks. If they don't have either of those two cards, this Batterskull is going to be pretty good. I can't win at the rate that I'm going. I need to play another card. So we're doing it. And I just have to, like, really hope my opponent doesn't have, like, a black Haymaker card. Oh no, opponent says best Windswept Heath ever. Yeah, we're super dead. My opponent says, you know, I've been waiting on this since you played Wasteland on turn 1, but I messed up by not Stoneforging in my Jitte. You know, oh well. So now my opponent will get to hit me for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then if my opponent gets a black source, I'm just dead on this turn. If they don't, I get to gain a bunch of life. But I should just be dead. Yeah. So that just represents death. But we'll make my opponent do it. Alright, there we go. So this was the first league that I went 2-3 with the Direfleet Daredevil list. I did 4 leagues and went 3-2 with it. I screenshotted something interesting today. Oh, that was the Ant player that Caracas Mythalia. Still a little tilted about that a few games down the line. So in this league, I played against Ant, a junk deck, Check Pile, Miracles, and Deathblade. You know, Deathblade deck, like, that's pretty close to an auto loss under most circumstances. Like, it's a very, very bad matchup, you know, when your opponent is playing 4 true names in their deck. But, you know, the other matchups were reasonable. There were a couple of moments that, like, really, really didn't break my way. So be it. So I guess that means I'm sitting at about a 57% win percentage with the Direfleet Daredevil list. I'll probably play 2 more leagues with it. Like, I'll probably stream with it again on, like, Monday and Wednesday. But if I don't see some improved results with it, I will probably drop it at this point. You know, playing this many leagues and not having any 5-0 or 4-1 finishes is a little bit unusual. Like, it does some neat things. Like, it's slightly awkward sometimes. Like, sometimes it's amazing. But, like, my my general utility that I have in Bryn Wingmare might be just as good as like what Direfleet Daredevil is giving me. Thank you all for joining tonight. Again, I'm Phil Gallagher of Thraben University. If you enjoyed this content, feel free to go ahead and follow me. I'm going to call it a night here, but I'll be streaming again on Monday at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. I'm going to go ahead and stop the stream here. Thank you for joining, and I'm going to find another stream to host and throw you all some more legacy content. Thanks for joining.